Thousands of railway tracks crisscross the world, but not all are modern, safe, or reliable. Some climb so high they disappear into the clouds. Others pass active volcanoes where earthquakes crack the tracks or eruptions bury them. There are railways clinging to a cliff's razor-thin edge with no safety rails, while others cross old wooden bridges, barely wider than the train itself. And then there's the bridge so dangerous it collapsed twice. In this new video from Forever Green, we'll show you 15 of the world's most extreme and dangerous railways. From bridges hit by ocean storms, tracks on steep slopes where rocks fall like rain, the world's most extreme railways demand courage from those who dare to ride them. Buckle up, this ride isn't for the faint of heart. 15. Tren a las Nubes, Argentina. The Tren a las Nubes, or Train to the Clouds, is one of the highest and most breathtaking railways in the world. This train climbs up the Andes Mountains in Argentina, reaching a dizzying height of 13,845 feet above sea level. The train's name comes from its path through the mountain valleys, where clouds often wrap around the tracks, making it seem like the train is floating in the sky. The journey starts in Salta and covers 134 miles of rugged mountain terrain before reaching the La Porravia viaduct near the Chilean border. Navigating the incredibly mountainous terrain, the Trans-Andean Railway utilizes 29 bridges, 21 tunnels, 13 viaducts, and 2 spirals to successfully reach its destination. But the most thrilling part is crossing the La Porravia viaduct and giant bridge made of metal and concrete. This bridge hangs 240 feet or 64 meters above a deep valley. From the train windows, passengers see straight drops down the sides of the mountain. No fences, just open air. 14. Death Railway, Thailand. The Death Railway in Thailand is one of the most tragic and dangerous train routes in the world. Built during World War II, this 258-mile track connects Ban Pong in Thailand to Tan Muziat in Myanmar. The railway cuts through thick jungles, steep mountains, and even crosses the famous River Kwai on shaky wooden bridges. Many sections have no safety rails, making the journey risky even today. The most famous part is the bridge over the River Kwai, built by POWs. Though the bridge was bombed during the war, it was rebuilt and is now a tourist site. But the real horror of this railway isn't just its dangerous path, it's the dark history behind the construction. During the war, Japan forced around 250,000 prisoners of war and laborers to build this railway under brutal conditions. Workers suffered from starvation, disease, and extreme cruelty. It's believed that over 100,000 people died while building it, which is why it's called the Death Railway. Today, trains still run on this route, carrying passengers through the same treacherous landscapes. Some parts have been repaired, but the old wooden bridges and sharp curves remain. 13. Georgetown Loop Railroad, USA. The Georgetown Loop Railroad in Colorado's Rocky Mountains is a winding path built for silver miners in the 1880s. Its most famous part is the Devil's Gate High Bridge, a tall, narrow bridge that crosses a deep canyon. The bridge stands 100 feet above the river, and the train inches across it slowly, with strong winds shaking the cars. The Devil's Gate bridge has no sides, and from the windows, passengers see straight down to the river below. Winds here can blow suddenly, making the train sway. The mountains here are steep, so engineers created a loop system. The train zigzags up the slopes, crossing over itself on bridges to gain height. This way, it climbs safely without sliding backward. But the tracks are so narrow that the train feels like it's hugging the edge of the mountain. Originally, this railway carried silver from mines to smelters. Today, it's a tourist ride, but the dangers haven't disappeared. 12. Devil's Nose, Ecuador. In the high Andes Mountains of Ecuador, there's a train route so dangerous it's called the Devil's Nose. This railway climbs 1,640 feet in just 12 kilometers, zigzagging up the near vertical cliffs at 9,000 feet above sea level. The name Devil's Nose comes from the sharp, rocky ridge that looks like a giant's twisted nose, and the danger of building a railway here seemed almost impossible. But in 1908, the tracks were carved directly into the side of Condor Mountain. Over 4,000 workers, including indigenous people and prisoners, carved these tracks by hand using dynamite and shovels. Many died from explosions, falls, or landslides. The train moves forward on one track, stops, and then reverses onto another track higher up. The back and forth motion, like a car slowly parking uphill, helps it climb without sliding back. Back then, passengers sometimes rode on top of the train cars because the view was so incredible. Today that's not allowed, but the ride is still terrifying. The train clings to the edge of the cliffs with no safety rails, and looking out the window means staring straight down a deadly drop. The Devil's Nose was once part of a longer railway connecting Guayaquil to Quito. 11. Chennai-Rameswaram Route, India. The Chennai-Rameswaram Railway route in India is famous for the Pamban Bridge, a 2.3-kilometer bridge that crosses the sea. Built in 1914, it was India's first sea bridge and remains one of the most daring. The bridge connects the mainland to Rameswaram, but this journey isn't easy. The bridge faces violent storms, whirlwinds, and waves that crash onto the tracks. Trains here move as slow as 9 miles per hour for safety. Strong winds, called whistling winds, can blow at 120 kilometers an hour, enough to push a train sideways. To survive these conditions, the bridge has no solid sides. It's just metal beams and tracks over the water. When storms hit it, seawater floods the rails and workers must check every inch before letting trains pass. This part, called a cantilever, was added in 2007 to replace an older manual system. 10. Bernina Express, Switzerland and Italy. The Bernina Express is a train that crosses the Swiss Alps between Switzerland and Italy. It climbs steep mountains, passes over 196 bridges, and goes through 55 tunnels. The route is famous for its snowy peaks, icy lakes, and green valleys, but it's also one of the most challenging railways to operate. Avalanches are the biggest danger here. Snow can slide down mountainsides with enough force to bury entire trains. To protect the tracks, engineers built walls and tunnels to block falling snow. Special teams use helicopters to trigger small avalanches on purpose before too much snow piles up. Trains also slow down in risky areas, and sensors warn crews if the weather turns dangerous. The Bernina Express reaches heights of 2,253 meters at the Bernina Pass. In winter, temperatures drop to negative 20 degrees Celsius or negative 4 degrees Fahrenheit, and ice coats the tracks. Passengers sit in cars with large windows to see glaciers, frozen lakes, and tiny alpine houses. The train moves slowly around sharp curves, giving everyone time to take in the views. 9. Ferrocarril del Sur, Peru. The Ferrocarril del Sur in Peru is one of the world's highest railways, reaching a surprising 15,700 feet above sea level. This train connects Lima, Peru's coastal capital, to the mountain city of Cerro de Pasco, climbing through the rugged Andes Mountains along the way. The tracks pass through 69 tunnels and cross 58 bridges, many built on steep cliffs. The most nerve-wracking part is the Verrugas Bridge, a 253-foot-high railway bridge spanning a deep canyon. This bridge has a dangerous history. It collapsed twice in the late 1800s due to floods before being rebuilt for the first time in 1936. Another most dangerous section is the Cusco Lake Titicaca line, where tracks cling to slopes so steep that rocks often tumble onto the rails. Trains move slowly to avoid derailing on sharp curves, and drivers watch for rock slides or cracks in the tracks. In rainy seasons, mud flows can even wash away parts of the railway, forcing crews to work day and night to repair them. Before proceeding to our next selection, we invite you to explore our video on 15 advanced and futuristic work vehicles. Now, back to our list.
8. White Pass and Yukon Route. The White Pass and Yukon Route is a railway built during the Klondike Gold Rush in the late 1800s. Miners rushed to Alaska and Canada hoping to find gold, but the journey was deadly. To reach the gold fields, they needed a safer path through the mountains. So workers built this cliffside railway in just 2 years. The train climbs to 2,865 feet at White Pass summit. The railway uses narrow tracks just 3 feet apart. This lets the train make sharp turns as it climbs 3,000 feet in only 20 miles. Higher than any skyscraper in the world. The route winds through dark tunnels and over old wooden bridges that creak as the train passes. The scariest part was the old 215-foot-high cantilever bridge, built right into the side of a mountain. It was an engineering wonder in its time, but today it looks too shaky to trust. The most famous spot is the $1 Million Curve, where the train inches along a ledge with a straight drop on one side. 7.
Aso Minami Route, Japan. The Aso Minami Route in Japan is a railway that runs close to Mount Aso, one of the world's most active volcanoes. This volcano often spits ash, smoke, and sometimes lava, making the area both beautiful and dangerous. The train track passes through the green hills and valleys, but the ground here is alive. Earthquakes shake the land and lava flows have burned parts of the railway in the past. Mount Aso crater is huge, almost 18 miles wide, and it's still breathing. Workers who built the railway in the 1920s had to dig through the hardened lava from old eruptions. Even today, the tracks sometimes crack or get buried after earthquakes or eruptions. One of the scariest parts of the journey is crossing the Daiichi Shirakawa Bridge, a tall, old bridge built in 1928. It stands nearly 200 feet above the ground, and because of the unstable land, it could be damaged at any time. In 2016, powerful earthquakes hit the area, causing massive landslides that destroyed parts of the railway. The tracks were fixed and reopened in 2020, but fewer trains run here now because of the danger. If you like this video so far, leave a like, and you can also check out future cars that look like they're from 3025, not 2025, on our channel Forever Green.
6. Outeniqua Choo-Tjoe, South Africa. The Outeniqua Choo-Tjoe in South Africa is a coastal railway that runs dangerously close to the ocean. Its most famous section is Caiman's Bridge, a low bridge built right above the waves. When storms hit, seawater crashes over the tracks, and strong winds push the train sideways. The railway was built in 1908 to connect towns along the rugged coast, but the sea has always fought to take it back. Trains here move slowly, especially near the bridge. Drivers watch the tide charts. If the waves are too high, the train stops. In 2006, a storm washed away part of the tracks, and the railway closed for years. It reopened in 2018 with stronger bridges, but the sea remains a threat. The train hugs the coast so tightly that rocks from the hills sometimes fall onto the tracks. Workers clear them daily, and trains have metal guards to push debris away. 5. Cumbres and Toltec Scenic Railroad, USA. The Cumbres and Toltec Scenic Railroad is a narrow-gauge railway in New Mexico that winds through the steep Chama Valley. Built in 1880 to carry silver and gold from mines, its tracks are closer together than normal trains, making it easier to twist around tight mountain curves. But this also means the train vibrates more, especially when passing cliffs with drops of 800 feet. The most nerve-wracking spot is the Lobato Trestle, a wooden bridge 137 feet high. The train creaks as it crosses, and passengers can see straight down through gaps in the planks. The railway climbs to 10,015 feet, where thin air makes even walking hard. In winter, snow buries the tracks, and workers use old-fashioned steam engines to melt ice with hot water. The train moves slowly, about 20 miles per hour, so drivers can stop quickly if they spot cracks or fallen trees. There are no guardrails, so the edge of the tracks feels dangerously close. 4. Mauritania Railway, Mauritania. The Mauritania Railway is a 2.5-kilometer long, 1.5-mile iron ore train that crosses the Sahara Desert. It's one of the longest and heaviest trains in the world, with up to 200 cars carrying rocks rich in iron. The train runs from mines in the desert to the coast, but the journey is brutal. Passengers here don't ride in cozy seats. They sit on top of the ore cars, exposed to sandstorms, 150 kilometers per hour winds, and temperatures that hit 50 degrees Celsius. The railway was built in 1963 to transport iron ore, but locals began hitching rides because there are few roads in the desert. The trip takes 18 hours with no shelter from the sun or sand. When sandstorms hit, the air turns orange. People wrap their faces in cloths, but the sand still gets into their eyes and mouths. The train moves at 40 kilometers per hour, but strong winds can push it sideways, risking derailment. The tracks themselves are often buried under sand dunes, so workers use bulldozers to clear them daily. 3. The Argo Gede Train Railroad, Indonesia. The Argo Gede train in Indonesia takes passengers on a beautiful ride between Bandung and Jakarta. But there's one part of the trip that's absolutely terrifying. The train must cross the Cikubang Bridge, a massive steel bridge with no safety rails on either side. This bridge stands 260 feet above the Cikubang River. That's taller than a 20-story building. The bridge is supported by huge steel pillars. When the train crosses, passengers can look straight down through the windows at the river far below. Some people say a train almost fell off this bridge in 2002, but this was never proven. Whether true or not, the story makes the crossing even scarier. The bridge is nearly 1,000 feet long, giving passengers plenty of time to feel nervous as the train thunders across. For those afraid of heights, this might be the worst few minutes of any train ride. 2nd Kuranda Scenic Railway, Australia. The Kuranda Scenic Railway in Australia winds through dense rainforests and steep cliffs in Queensland. Built between 1882 and 1891, this railway has 40 bridges and 15 tunnels, all carved by hand through rocky mountains. The most famous spot is the Stony Creek Bridge, a tall iron bridge that curves over a deep gorge. Below, waterfalls crash into pools, and mist sprays the train windows. The bridge stands 174 feet high and has no safety rails. Heavy rains here cause constant problems. The ground turns to mud, and landslides can bury tracks overnight. Workers use small trains called ballast trains to clear rocks and repair the rails. The railway climbs from Cairns, a coastal city, up to Kuranda, a village in the mountains. The trip takes 2 hours, passing waterfalls, giant ferns, and rare birds like cassowaries. But the views come with risks. The tracks cling to cliff sides, and in some places the mountain has collapsed, leaving gaps patched with wooden planks. 1. Mexico's crime-plagued railways. Mexico's railways face a different kind of danger: crime. Trains carrying goods like fuel, cars, and electronics are often attacked by thieves. In 2017, robberies jumped by 475%, meaning nearly 5 times more trains were targeted than before. Some even sabotage tracks, bending rails or placing rocks to derail trains and make stealing easier. Many thieves are desperate people from poor towns near the tracks. They sell stolen goods to survive, but criminal gangs also use the railways to smuggle drugs or weapons. Trains passing through lonely areas at night are most at risk. Drivers sometimes find entire sections of track missing, forcing them to stop suddenly. If a train derails, thieves swarm it like ants, grabbing whatever they can before police arrive. Would you be brave enough to take a ride on all of these extreme railways? Let me know down in the comments below, and don't forget to like the video and subscribe to Forever Green for more incredible journeys.